Pipes trilled, drums rattled feverishly, and the dancers' bare feet slapped the marble floor. A dancer leapt high in the air and hung there as though weightless, suspended in a cloud of translucent silk. Suddenly, soundlessly, she landed, and the music stopped. As the dancers bowed and filed out, pursued by a patter of applause, they were replaced by an equal number of servers carrying the next course. It was the 5th course, or possibly the 6th. Few of the guests could remember. Even the banquet's host, a very distinguished and now rather inebriated senator, wasn't sure. Not that it mattered. What mattered was that this particular course was being carried in on bright silver platters, and that it consisted entirely of small fish with shimmering red scales. As this became clear to the guests, an excited murmur filled the room. The whole evening had been a parade of delicacies, but nothing that compared to these fish, which were worth their weight in silver. This video will explore one of the stranger episodes in Roman cultural history, the mania surrounding the small but delectable fish that we call red mullet. As a way of contextualizing the phenomenon, I'll begin with a brief overview of delicacies and dining culture in ancient Rome, cribbed more or less directly from Chapter 6 of my book. For the vast majority of Romans, almost every meal was based on bread or porridge, flavored with a bit of oil, honey, dates, or herbs. Depending on season and availability, this might be complemented with cheese, fruit, beans, lentils, or, occasionally, a bit of pork or chicken. Whenever possible, the meal is accompanied by wine. For Romans who could afford fine dining, dinner was the primary meal of the day. Wealthy Romans reclined on couches as they ate, leaning on their left elbows. Although they might have knives, spoons, and toothpicks, they never used forks. Since they ate with their hands, their entrees were served in small pieces, and frequent hand scrubbing was necessary. A Roman banquet began with a round of appetizers. Salads, snails, and sardines were all popular, washed down with honeyed wine. The dinner that followed usually had between 3 and 7 courses. The variety of foods was immense, every conceivable variety, domestic and imported, of bird, fish, shellfish, and meat. By modern standards, the flavors were strong. Most dishes were heavily seasoned with pepper and other exotic spices, soaked with rich sauces or honey, and served with garum, a pungent condiment made from sun-ripened fish entrails. From the vast variety of foods on offer, guests would sample dishes that struck their fancy, taking small portions from each. After hours of leisurely nibbling, the pageantry ended with a dessert of honeyed cakes, fruit, and nuts. As you might expect, the Romans relished a vast range of delicacies. They liked dormice, nocturnal tree rats that were fattened for months in special containers before being roasted, dunked in honey, and served on platters. The Roman palate was also pleased by the udders, womb, and genitals of female pigs. One emperor, in fact, was rumored to have been assassinated with a poisoned sow womb. The heads and tongues of songbirds made up a whole class of delicacies. Flamingo tongue was thought to be especially delectable. Peacock was eaten with such eagerness that farms dedicated to selling and raising them sprang up across Italy. Oysters grown in the Lucrine Lake by the Bay of Naples were always welcome. Until pollution ruined the taste, the most valued fish were sea bass from the Tiber. Later, sturgeon, but not yet caviar, was acknowledged as the premier freshwater delicacy. The most expensive and most prestigious of all fish, however, was the red mullet. The red mullet the Romans knew and loved was actually 2 related species, the red mullet proper and the striped red mullet, which I, like the Romans, have no particular interest in distinguishing. Red mullets are small fish, seldom more than a foot long. They live near the seabed, eating mussels and crustaceans, and are remarkable both for their striking crimson color and for the remarkable properties of their fillets. Mullet flesh had many desirable qualities. It was thought to suppress sexual desire, always useful at a banquet, though the fact that it was also considered a contraceptive suggests that some libidos were untroubled by its effects. Drinking wine in which a mullet had been allowed to rot was regarded as a surefire cure for alcoholism. But above all, mullet tasted good. The flesh of a mullet, which was thought to taste like oyster, was universally praised, though it had to be cooked correctly. Some chefs thought that the only way to prevent the stomach from bursting in the oven was to kiss each fish on the mouth before baking. Connoisseurs especially favored the head and liver. Red mullets, as mentioned, were small fish, and larger specimens were always in high demand. At a time when most men earned between 500 and 1,000 sestertii a year, a single 4-pound mullet might go for 1,200. Larger specimens went for 6,000, 7,000, even 8,000 sestertii. In the reign of Tiberius, 3 large mullets sold for a whopping 30,000. A banquet that required a dozen large mullets might cost as much as a modest villa. Red mullets were hard to keep alive in fish ponds, and thus could not be farmed like other banquet staples. Overfishing may have also been a problem. Juvenal claims that mullets had become scarce in the seas around Rome. The ultimate reason for the exorbitant cost of red mullet, however, was conspicuous consumption. The Roman elite, competing to display the largest available fish, drove prices higher and higher. The fad faded with time, but for well over 200 years, the Roman elite was firmly in the grip of mullet mania. If you enjoyed this video, please consider supporting Told & Stone on Patreon. You might also enjoy my book, Naked Statues, Fat Gladiators, and War Elephants. Thanks for watching.